Hello, welcome to the West Ham Way YouTube. Myself, Mark Carlaw, Mr. Riley Finch, as always. How are you, mate? Are you okay?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Yourself?
Not bad, mate. Not too bad. So first off, mate, we've got to talk about the man again, Jesse Lingard. He's back in the
Mm,
press again, which, let's be honest, I was kind of expecting. I think X kind of pre-warned us that was going to be the case, but there's a lot of talk online now and doing its rounds that a deal is close. Um, from what we're gathering from X, is that that's actually not the case. That it's basically a deal has been. We've offered Jesse a deal, and that's still the case. It's still very much sitting in his the ball's in his court, and he's going to weigh up his options as and when after his holiday and things like that. What's your thoughts on Jesse, Riley? I mean, is it something that's driving you a bit mad, or is it something we should keep persisting with? You think, and hold out hope that he might actually decide to come to West Ham again?
No, mate, it's driving me mad. I mean, we did a video quite a while back talking about Lingard, and I controversially said I don't want him. I didn't want him then. I don't want him now. I just think, move on.
Mm.
We had a good 6 month spell with Lingard, and to be honest, I don't really blame him for not coming to us necessarily after that, because I feel like Man United were in his way quite a lot. But now he's a free agent. I mean, he's a free agent as of the 1st of July, but he can negotiate and he can talk to us, and he just doesn't seem that fussed with joining us. I'd rather maybe like Aidan Januzaj as an alternative, or someone more hungry and young, such as Potter. Lingard for me is it honestly just seems like one of those transfers where everyone's sitting around in Sky Sports or the BBC and they're like, oh, what are we going to report today? And they're like, well, we could talk about
Yeah.
Jesse Lingard for a minute time, or we could talk about Declan Rice for a minute time. And they're like, all right, we'll talk about Lingard today, we'll talk about Rice tomorrow.
I think you're right. I do think you're right. I think there is a case of that. I do think that it's one of those stories that's just going to keep doing its rounds. I mean, it's a weird one with Lingard because I really wanted him to come back. I mean, I was really impressed with him when he's first at the club, and I was one of those, one of the fans that desperately wanted to see him return. Obviously, it didn't happen. I thought that maybe possibly last January we would have got him back in for that final push, as we wanted for top four. Didn't happen. And I suppose the way it's going for me personally now is that I'm a little bit like you now. I'm getting a little bit sick and tired of it. But annoyingly, it keeps dragging me back in. Every time there's sort of like I see, oh, really, something's going to happen here. But I'm not overly sure now. And like you, I'm sort of starting to feel that if what we've offered is not enough for Jesse and he's not that keen, then fine. That's obviously it's completely fair play. It's up to him. But yeah, I'm kind of thinking, don't keep pushing it now. Don't keep desperately trying to get him in. I'd like to think what we've offered is pretty good, and I'd like to think as well in terms of what he's achieved before with West Ham, and with a World Cup coming on, you'd have thought that West Ham would have been a big front runner for him in his mind. But let's just see how it pans out. I mean, we've still not heard anything from the player himself, but I'm slightly going along your way, Riley. I'm starting to feel a little bit like getting a bit fed up with it now. I'd rather just us move on and focus on other targets. Although, if something happens tomorrow, I know I'll still get excited if he's linked to us again. That's just the way I am.
I mean, to be honest, if Jesse Lingard joins, obviously I'll probably be a little bit excited, and he'd probably play very well for us as he did. But I'm just so over it now. It seems like we're getting led on by Jesse Lingard. Every time I see it come off my Twitter feed, you just sort of think something new, and I just think there's so many more alternatives out there that we can bring in that aren't going to be as much of a headache as Jesse Lingard. I think it's, it wasn't the wrong person. It's just the wrong time. That's the way I see it,
Yeah, and it's a bit of a shame because, I mean, if he came out and said, I want to come back to West Ham, I've kept quiet because, my agent's been, looking to see what offers are going to come in. But West Ham, of course, my first choice. That'd be great. But you're right. I mean, the thing is, we're not hearing that. And we're not really seeing any of that. And it does feel a bit like it's been a bit played, that I know he's a top target for Moyes. I know that Moyes highly rates him, and fair enough that, and he's got every right to, because he was brilliant for us. But yeah, I mean, I think it's now, even if he does come, there's been so much cloud over this. It's dragged on for so long. It's kind of, even with people like me that really wanted him in, I'm kind of just getting a bit exhausted with the whole saga, really. I just quite like to see the end of it. One way or another, I'd like him just to come out and say, look, I'm not interested. I don't want to come back. And then at least we can just move on and get on with our lives. But because that hasn't happened, and we keep seeing these stories keep coming round and round and round. I mean, the stories we're talking about now from the Sun, I think actually, the Daily Mail, wasn't it? Actually, that they were basically saying the deal's close, that it's all been agreed and it's soon to be announced. But X has poured water on that anyway and said that that's basically not true, and the scenario just hasn't changed yet. So it's the way it is, mate, isn't it? It's just the way it is. We're just going to have to keep. This is going to go on all summer, isn't it? We're going to be talking about this in about
Oh,
a week's time.
totally. And I mean, it's something very interesting you talk about in that. Why hasn't the player come out and said anything? Because we keep getting these little hints on Twitter and these little hints on Instagram and these little posts and his brother's the worst. He every minute we think the deal's off. He puts something on some sort of social media to where we think, no, he's coming. He's a claret.
Yeah.
Claret and blue, but no, it just it's like you say. Why hasn't the player just come out and said, look, I'm keeping my options open at the moment, but I want to join West Ham. It's one of my aspirations. I just need to figure out some stuff first, and then but he hasn't said anything. He's kept quiet. He's done a couple of TikToks, and that's about it. It's just not.
I've noticed that.
Not the ambition you want when you're trying to push on, and he's like going on 30 now, so it's not like we shouldn't be desperate to sign him. Do you know what I mean? But like I say, it seems like the timing just never worked out for us and Lingard, and I think we should just move on now, really.
Yeah, so for me, mate, it's basically like I'm always going to have that candle for Lingard burning. It won't go out until he basically says I'm definitely not coming back. But like you, I mean, I've even got to a stage a little bit now where even if something does kind of come up news-wise about Jesse returning to West Ham, I'm not really overly excited now because I just kind of keep thinking it's probably a load of paper talk and a load of nonsense. So, and really, it does appear that's what's happened this time, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, it does seem that way, and like I say, there are plenty of alternatives. One of which being Danjuma of Villarreal, I believe. Around 34 million. He played for Bournemouth in the Championship, and I think we were actually linked to him when he did play in the Championship with Bournemouth, and they failed to get promoted. And at the time, I thought he was a really, really good talent, and my opinion doesn't change on him. I think he's really, really good. He's still relatively young. 34 mil seems a bit steep because if we're going in for players like Broja, we've got that pecking order. 35 million seems like it should be put towards that as opposed to someone like Danjuma. But player wise, he's a really exciting talent.
Yeah, I mean, this is one that's sort of come out of nowhere again. I'm not sure of the credibility of it. X hasn't yet commented on his. We haven't seen anything from him on that just yet. But you're right. I mean, it's an exciting player. Someone that's done really well from last season. He only joined Villarreal last season, I believe. But looking at his stats, I believe he scored 10 goals. He appeared in the Champions League for them, did a good job. So the question mark for me only is, why are they selling him? I mean, unless it's financial issues at the club, why would they sell a player like that? I mean, is there any issues with the player? Do you know much about him in terms of that, Riley?
Well, I know he's got a release clause of around 54 million. So again, you would argue why they sell him for 34 if his release clause is 54 if they don't want to sell him. So yeah, that puzzles me as well. I mean, whether Danjuma wants a new talent. I mean, I know that I'm not sure he's a nailed-on starter for Villarreal, but more or less he's one of their first players on the team sheet, I would have said. So just thinking from talent-wise, I mean, you can't name me too many players in the Villarreal squad who are going to get in ahead of him. But I don't whether he's a nailed-on starter or not. I'm not sure, but. You'd think Champions League. I believe they're in the Champions League again this season, unless that's not the case.
I'd
wonder.
say it is a strange one. I mean, again, I've got a great player to be linked with, though, and also what I like about it is that the sort of caliber of player and the fee we're talking. West Ham are very much linked. I mean, again, like I know we feel like we're repeating ourselves here, but it does seem that West Ham are doing business. We are interested in the big players. We're not afraid to sort of throw a bit of money around, but. Yeah, I mean, I don't know enough about the player in terms of how he did really last season. I know that I saw him in the Champions League. I don't know how he did overall domestically. But I know he did a very good job for Bournemouth. I mean, they signed him, I believe, for 20 million. I think around 25 million euros anyway. When they brought him from Bournemouth to over to Spain. So, I mean, it just shows the sort of player that he is. He's obviously a top draw player. I mean, we were talking about Lingard and things like that. I mean, would you say this is the kind of player you want to see step in instead of that then? West Ham sort of moving forward on from that sort of Jesse Lingard links?
No, I mean, I'm more in the sort of, I actually don't think we need a winger that desperately. As long as we keep Benrahma and Vlasic, I think if we're looking for Potter for 20 million, or I think earlier in the window we've linked with De La Feu for 15, which I would take that as like a rotational winger. Also, Aidan
Yeah.
Januzaj, someone we've been linked with in the past, and I think he'd be quite good to get in on a free. So, you know, that's the one thing that does attract me with the Lingard deal is that it is free. So, you know, he's going to free up funds. But for me, my number one priority right now would be Potter for about 20 million, or Januzaj for about, you know, for a free. 27 years old. I think 34 is too much, but I do think Danjuma is a really good player. So, like I say, it's good to see us getting linked with these kind of talents. And if he did come to West Ham, if it did work out, I'm sure it'd be really, really good for us.
Yeah, absolutely. It's exciting, mate. And I agree with you, by the way, on Lewis Potter. That's the one that I've always kind of hoped that we'd get over the line, to be honest. I've been really impressed with him in the Championship. And I think as well, we've kind of proven that it just works well for us, that model, the Championship model. The top players that come from there, they always seem very hungry, have done very well for us. I mean, you can look back at sort of Creswell, Antonio. Of course, Ben Rama's done a good job for us as well. But obviously, Jared Bowen's gone on, you know, leaps and bounds for us since coming from Hull. So, yeah, that for me is the one that I would like to see happen. But yeah, no, I mean, I'm not going to, you know, Danjuma is not a bad person to be linked with, so I'm not going to complain about that. But yeah, so exciting times, mate. Let's hopefully we'll get some positive news coming from the club again very soon. Yeah,
absolutely, mate. Yeah, can't wait.
All right, mate. You take care. Thanks for watching, everyone. Take care. Bye.